Hi, this is Ted with Urban Greens, and today's video is going to go over how to fill your reservoir for the first time. Now, this is after you've assembled your grow rack and you have it positioned where you'd like to do your growing. And you're going to want to bring the reservoir to the side of the rack that has all the plumbing. And for the next step, we're going to get it covered and take a look at the fittings on the outside of the reservoir that allow you to connect it to the rack itself. And the first most important one here is the fitting for your irrigation line, which connects to this fitting mounted on the rack. Simply line it up here and screw it together, just like so. Hand tight is perfectly adequate. And then you're going to want to take the hinging drain line here and make sure that it lines up with the drain hole, which it does. We're going to revisit this after we get it filled, so that looks good for now. The next step really is to fill this reservoir with water. We're in town here, so we use municipal water, no need for reverse osmosis. Although if you're in the country or your water has a high mineral content, RO is also totally fine. We have a garden hose here, and we're going to go ahead and begin filling. Now this is going to take several minutes, so I will be right back. So a few minutes have passed and our reservoir is done filling. So I'm going to go ahead and take the hose out and take a peek inside. This reservoir has a 60-gallon capacity and we like to fill to about 50 gallons. We find that that's enough water volume to keep it a little resistant from day-to-day fluctuations of temperature, pH level, that sort of thing. But you also want to maintain a water level that's slightly below the spray nozzle fitting on your stir pump. That way the pump is able to both mix the water from the bottom to the top, and the spray nozzle helps with the constant oxygenation of the water, which we use in place of air stones and an air pump, which we find makes more noise and is higher maintenance over time. So we're going to go ahead and plug in the stir pump to get the water moving in this reservoir before we start mixing our nutrients. Flip the power on and there it goes. So to begin with, it's really important to take an electrical conductivity reading of your water before nutrients. That way it'll allow you to calculate the desired nutrient level based on where you're starting from. And so we're going to go ahead and take a quick reading here. And this water today shows a 0.4 EC reading, 0.3, excuse me. And we like to mix our nutrients to about 1.2 EC, and therefore 1.2 plus 0.3 equals 1.5. And so that 1.5 metric is what we're going to shoot for this reservoir today. So our next step is to go ahead and pre-dissolve some nutrient mix. We like to pre-mix it in a container before we add it to the reservoir, just to make sure that it's pretty well dissolved and there aren't any large chunks that will sit in the bottom and be resistant to dissolving. Just trying to get a nice, accurate reading before your plants start being watered and growing. So go ahead and add this into the reservoir. Give the pump some time to mix it all up, equilibrate its levels, and then we can go ahead and take another reading in just a few minutes. All right, so I've added about a half cup total of our nutrient mix to the reservoir, and I'm going to go ahead and take another EC reading to make sure we're where we want to be. Looks like we're about right on 1.5 EC, which means we're good to go with our nutrients. And now the next step is we're going to take our pH meter and take a look at where the pH is. Now, normally, nutrient mixes have some amount of pH buffer in them, and so usually by the time you've mixed your nutrients at the level you'd like, your pH is relatively close to where you want it to be. It looks like in our case, this pH is measuring at 6.2, which isn't too bad, but we want to bring it down to about 5.8 is what we ideally like to grow at. And so we're going to take a little bit of pH down here. And once again, we like to add it to a smaller container before the reservoir. Just gives us a little bit more control, as these pH buffers tend to be pretty powerful. And if you add too much accidentally, it really will swing your pH in a too far. So just a little drop here. Give it a little mix. And then again, I'm not going to add this whole thing. I'm going to start with just a little bit of diluted pH down, give it a few seconds here, and take another measurement. All right, that brought it down to 5.9. I'm going to give it just another second here. Test it again before I add any more. Still 5.9. There we go. Now we're reading 5.9, or excuse me, 5.8. And this reservoir is ready to go, ready to put plants into the system and start watering.